Ole Miss is days away from a potential $100 million game if they beat Mississippi State. We'll talk with Bill Flowers all about it and kind of take the temperature of this year's Egg Bowl with him. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, Steven Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media and a former Ole Miss staff member. We're going to talk with Bill Flowers, former Ole Miss wide receiver, in just a second about this Egg Bowl. He's somebody that played in a few of them. It's interesting to get his perspective. We'll talk to him all about that. All of the noise surrounding the game, the memories of the Egg Bowls that he has and stuff like that. We're going to try and lead into Thanksgiving Day tomorrow pretty quick with that. Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen. Please give us a like, subscribe, and comment. On your way out, check out a second listen on the network. Nearly every team, college and pro, is available. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's Game Time. You might need those if you're heading down to Starkville on Friday. Now, Bill, before we get started, I've got to know, and I probably already asked this question. I probably asked it the last few years, and we're just going to hear it again. What is your favorite Egg Bowl memory?
Oh, favorite Egg Bowl memory is Chad Pilcher. It was at Mississippi State. It was raining. I think it was 2002. And Chad is just the all-American kid. He's always playing special teams. He's just the blue-collar kid who never gets any publicity or anything. And it's a punt. And so we punt to state, and Chad comes. He is the up back, and the poor guy is probably 205 pounds and taking on linebackers and just getting the crap beat out of him all the time. And so it's raining, it's pouring, it's just nasty, and we boot it, and Chad comes down, and he's absolutely just blasts the returner, and the team goes absolutely wild for Chad. And it's a top 10 Sports Center moment, and that's my favorite moment because Chad's just a good buddy of mine. Worked hard, and it was one of those things where it just lit up the team. It was awesome. But that was the nastiest game I probably ever played in. Just cold, wet, like 40 degrees. Just get us out of here. And Chad just electrifies the sideline.
I know exactly the play. I can see it in my mind right now. It was one that whenever I was at Ole Miss, we would watch from time to time. We always talk about the back of the head being the first thing to hit. That was like big hit. The back of his head was the first thing to hit. The top of the Mississippi State player was the first thing to hit. He got unbelievably cleaned out. It was one of those plays that if it was modern college football, Chad would have probably been arrested.
Oh,
That's how good of a hit that was.
Yeah, he was. It was. Yeah, it would have been. It would have been a foul.
Yeah,
targeting.
It was pretty good. Yeah, it was an amazing hit. It's probably one of the best hits I've ever seen. Speaking of good hits to start games and on special teams and players that aren't necessarily starters, that same season in 2003, you played Alabama, and a young linebacker named Patrick Willis made a hit on an opening kickoff that kind of set the tone for that entire game. Talk about how stuff like that can just energize your team and kind of you're going. You thought you were fired up, but now we're going.
Oh, absolutely. Special teams is a huge part of the game. And when you have a play that just absolutely electrifies the stands, the players, it just gives you juice. I mean, it's a huge, especially when it's the beginning of the game.
Yeah, that was really cool. I was just thinking about that Patrick Willis hit, and yeah, pretty good special teams that year. That was a pretty good team.
Uh,
That team that went 7-1 in the SEC, surprising, right?
Kerry Kerry Johnson had a couple of those
Mhm.
same kind of hits through his career.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. But yeah, I remember that year, and in the 2003 season was my I was in Italy, so every game that Ole Miss played, like I'm rooting for a Jefferson Pilot game. Like when you played Vanderbilt, I was fired up because that means I could watch it at like 7:30 at night. But whenever you played Auburn or you played LSU or things like that, I was going to bed after midnight. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, and all of that. So I remember that season very vividly. And it was a weird game at the end that Chad Pilcher hit was in that came after that LSU game. And it was odd and it was weird. And Ole Miss was, will they make it to a January 1st bowl and all of that? Will there be a letdown? I think that was Jackie Sherrill's last game in Starkville as well. What was the atmosphere going into that game for the team? Not necessarily the coaches, the team, the players.
Listen, when you're playing Mississippi State, the atmosphere is always, this is our rival game. We've got to focus, and the rivalry between State and Ole Miss versus Alabama versus Auburn is different. There's a visceral hatred between the players of Ole Miss and State. Not so much with Auburn and Alabama. Alabama, it's a visceral hate between fans. And that's the biggest difference. Like there have been, I know in, what was it, 2000, and then the year before, Deuce and the whole just brawl. I mean, there's a visceral hatred between the two teams, with State and Ole Miss versus Auburn, Alabama.
So
The
whenever,
the the media lives and dies in Alabama on Auburn Alabama game. Like the Iron Bowl, from a standpoint, is much different than the Ole Miss State game. The players, it's nasty.
so what is it like on the field? How chippy is it? What do we not know?
I just think you have, this is kind of bulletin board material, but you have like the little brother. You just want to like smack him around. You just shut him up. That's kind of the whole idea. There's players that played high school together. They were enemies during high school. Now they're enemies in college. You didn't get to go to Ole Miss. You're not as good. There's just a nasty kind of just hatred between the two. So,
So
but when you're playing, it's just, you're just trying to, I don't want to say hurt, but you're just trying to inflict your will against them in a way that is, violent.
yeah, that's absolutely correct. It's crazy to think of. And listen, I think it was in 1990. You talk about the Deuce Brawl, but the last time or the next to the last time they played in the game in Jackson, the Ole Miss and State players literally squared up from 10-yard line to 10-yard line in a single file line and just fought.
Yeah, I mean, I remember David Morris, who's from Mobile, when I was a true freshman. He was explaining the difference between the two, and he told me, "Listen, I'm just telling you, you're going to see a real hatred. LSU, Ole Miss, there's a mutual respect that you love playing against LSU. There is no respect against Mississippi State. That's the way that it is. So if you're going to get in a fight with somebody and they know that you respect them and that it's going to be an all-out brawl, there's some there's something different about that. When you're going against somebody that just absolutely just disrespects you, that just thinks nothing of you, that's when the dirty blows happen. That's when the things that shouldn't happen. And that's what the state Ole Miss game's about.
All right. We're talking with Bill Flowers about the Egg Bowl. He knows all about the Egg Bowl. He's played in quite a few of them. He talked about the Chad Pilcher hit. We'll talk about this year's Egg Bowl right after the break, just as soon as we come back. So stick around for that. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel. It's the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on absolutely everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It helps keep every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcatcher you're listening to, and give it a 5-star review. Cost absolutely nothing, but it helps keep all of this free. Locked On's getting ready to change the game yet again, all in the name of following your team. It's coming in December. We will let you know more whenever we have more details. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in America. That's all on you. Thank you very much. All right. This is an interesting game, Bill, whenever you look at it. Ahmad Hardy, the running back from Missouri, ran for 300 yards against Mississippi State. They've had trouble stopping the run all year long. Nate Frazier did it the week before that. This feels like a Keon Lacy game to where he could get off a couple of times. But if Mississippi State is intent on stopping the run, that should open up the pass game with all the weapons. This feels like a game that if Ole Miss gets going and their mind's in it and they play clean, they can get it rolling to where they roll up the score pretty good.
Yeah, again, you have their, like, look at last year. There's no reason why Auburn should have been even close to playing Alabama, and Alabama lost Auburn lost the last play of the game. This
2 years ago.
Was that 2 years ago?
That was, the last year. That was 2 years ago. Last year was in Tuscaloosa. It was like 17-point win.
Okay, so the year before, the Ole Miss should absolutely destroy Mississippi State, like you said. If you're going to take away the run game, then we should be able to RPO, to hit quick, hit over the top. It should be a track meet. That's just how it should be. Now, this is a rivalry game and things happen. So if that's the case, if I'm Mississippi State, I'm blitzing as fast as I possibly can. I'm going to hedge my bet that if I can make you make mistakes, that's the best chance for us to win. That's what I would do if I'm Mississippi State. I would just absolutely bring the house and say, listen, you're not going to beat us on the run. If you can beat us over the top and protect against the blitz, then hats off to you. You win. And that's what I bet Mississippi State does. And if we're able to protect, you're able to hit those big plays and take the fight out of Mississippi State early.
Yeah, and Ole Miss has a better offensive line than State has a defensive line. Ole Miss has a better defensive line than State has an offensive line. And whenever those two things match up, it's like 95% of the time that team wins the football game. But it being a rivalry game, you're like, well, what happens if you throw a stupid interception, if there's a pick six, if they run a punt back for a touchdown? We've all seen these games where it can happen.
And you're playing at State.
Yeah. Were you on the team in State when Romero went down there?
No, my freshman year.
The kick interception.
No, that was the year before.
Okay.
2000 was my freshman year, and we played state at Ole Miss.
Okay. Yeah, that was the throwback pass, the Deuce to Romero pass. Yeah.
Yes.
There was a game that Romero just randomly, like, Ole Miss was up by like 7 points at the end of the game, and they threw interceptions like on back-to-back possessions, and State ended up winning on a field goal. They did something similar to Eli, I think, in 2001, to where there was some kind of weird interception or something that ended up in a kick that they won the game.
Yeah, it's hard for me to think back for that specific play. But yeah, I know that they won, was it 2001? And then we won straight from there on out. I think this is the last time Ole Miss beat State 3 times in a row was 2002 to 2005. So that was 3 years in a row. So this will be the first time that we beat Mississippi State 3 times in a row if we can do it to control the series.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you don't even really think about it, but Ole Miss has won 4 out of 5 games in Starkville.
Yeah.
But
they
won the loss was that piss in the miss thing that led to Lane Kiffin to come to Ole Miss to start with.
Yes. And the fact is that Ole Miss should destroy Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State has never been where Ole Miss is for a while. But when you have, just think about it. You have Mississippi State at State. If Ole Miss loses at State, that means State just potentially took Ole Miss out of the playoffs, potentially is the decision maker whether Lane Kiffin stays or goes. So if you could keep Ole Miss from making the playoffs, run Kiffin out of town, that would make State's marketing campaign their season, and they get into a bowl game. So there's a lot that State has going for them right now. I mean, the thought of a team with that much hatred toward another team being a rival game, the last game of the season, we can absolutely just destroy Ole Miss's season by this win. That's a scary situation, and I think everybody knows that. The players know that, and like I said, if I was State, I would do everything I possibly could to create as much confusion and disruption for the passing game by just blitzing, and not letting them run the game. I mean, if I'm scouting Ole Miss, the last thing I'm going to do is allow Keon Lacy to control the game. I mean, this guy is on a run. He's on a tear right now. And last game, I mean, what was it? 225 yards? Is that what he had?
Roughly.
I mean, you have to take him out of the game. And this is what we did last year. We just absolutely brought pressure to create mistakes and let our back end be able to do their job. And if I'm State, the game is over if Ole Miss controls the ground game, just completely demolishes State. There's no question about it. So I think that's what's going to determine whether Ole Miss can take State out of the game quickly, is by capitalizing on the big play. If they are going to absolutely bring the house and just say, whatever happens, we're not letting Keon Lacy run the ball on us.
All right, so we're going to come back with Bill Flowers and talk about what we expect from this game and what the final prediction is going to be. We'll get Bill's thoughts on that as well. But first, I do want to let you know college football is back, and I could not be much more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices, jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It comes in handy with the Ole Miss State game on Friday, too. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a couple of taps, I saw some amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite football games, not the Egg Bowl, for as low as $25 to get in. Honestly, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way that I bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, Bill, let's give our final thoughts. How do you see this game going? What are we going to see Friday morning?
I think you're going to see State stack the box, be very aggressive, put all their chips on the line. I think you're going to see Ole Miss establish the pass game and then get Keon Lacy going, and it should be a rout. Should be. That's what I think. And I think that an early game in Starkville plays to Ole Miss's advantage, just like an LSU game. LSU, you want to play them during the day. You don't want to play them at night. You don't want to get all the cowbells going at 6:30, 7:30 at night. So I think that you're going to see a routing of Ole Miss. I think you're going to see the players focused and just absolutely determined to get into the playoffs and not allow State to dictate this. I think that in the years past, with hey, you're on this team for 4 years, but now with the transfer portal, you have so many guys coming in, coming out. I do think that plays to the advantage of the whole Lane Kiffin debacle drama that's been going on. These players are sort of like, this is a transactional team. This is not like your old school teams. So I don't think it is as much of a distraction as it would have been in the past, but I do still think it's a distraction. I think that's why you saw Ole Miss drop in the playoff rankings, because of the mindset of if a coach leaves or a quarterback is hurt or a key player is hurt, the playoff committee can take that into account. And so with Ole Miss not playing last week and the whole drama has definitely hurt Ole Miss in that regard. So I think the players know that this is an absolute must win. You cannot leave this game or the playoff to the committee. You cannot do that. You must win this game and to lock yourself into the playoffs. There is no doubt that if Ole Miss loses this game, that there's I think I saw there was a 40% chance that they get in. If it's a 40% chance that they get in, that means Ole Miss doesn't get in. Ole Miss will get screwed.
Yeah, you can absolutely count on that. You actually saw people last night almost asking questions and lobbying for Ole Miss to drop down of what would happen. One thing that's interesting to me, and it's something that I haven't dived into right now, but if something happens, you got to think about that. If Lane Kiffin were to leave Ole Miss and Ole Miss were to miss the playoffs because Lane Kiffin left, would there be recourse for the school to sue Lane Kiffin? Because that's $70 million lost for the Oxford community that is gone just because he left.
No way. 0% chance that you could sue him for recourse. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I would just think that there's no way that you can get recourse. And listen, I think the players are locked in. I think the players do realize what's at stake. If they lose this game, it's not because of Lane Kiffin. It's because of they just didn't execute. At the end of the day, these players are the ones that play the game. Lane Kiffin, to me, is only getting better in his maturity as a coach, but I don't think Lane Kiffin is the guy that is going to win or lose uh, the game for you. He's he he has been able to put together a roster. He's been able to bring so much excitement and so much energy into the Ole Miss team and fan base. But at the end of the day, it's the players that are going to determine where they win or lose. And like I said, this isn't the old school where you have a team that's pretty much locked in, and if your coach leaves, it's I would love to know what percentage of the roster was here last year versus guys that have been here for 3+ years or more. So um, the recourse, no, it's just the players have to put it on themselves. And if Kiffin were to leave and Ole Miss goes in the playoffs, I think that the players it only galvanizes them. So I don't think there's any recourse. Listen, like I said, Kiffin has been amazing for Ole Miss. He's been exactly what Ole Miss has needed. He has grown the community. It's been a Saban effect, but at the end of the day, the players are the ones that are going to win or lose this game.
All right, what do you got going on this Thanksgiving, man?
Going to the beach for the family. Gonna have a little Thanksgiving down there, and that's about it.
All right, well, safe travels, buddy, and we'll talk to you next week, man.
Yes, sir. Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your go-to source for Ole Miss sports. We pride ourselves on offering the most comprehensive perspectives, which is why we're the front door of Ole Miss. Don't believe me? Google Ole Miss podcast. You'll see how much we come up. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the show, and it's absolutely free. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for making it your first listen at Locked On Ole Miss. But for your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy breaks down the best conference in college sports, from the rivalries to the championship and every game in between. Find Locked On SEC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts as part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, analytics is just the old English word that means bad football. We'll see you tomorrow.